Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. In this demonstration, what I'm going to do is show you how to create your own hand-bound art journal out of watercolor paper. Pretty straightforward. This is not a quick and dirty video. There is some technique involved, and you can just basically make it as simple or as complicated as you want depending on your style. I simply went out and bought full-size sheets of watercolor paper, and whatever you can get access to is what I suggest you use, especially when you're getting started. Multimedia paper is fine. Watercolor paper, there's different brands out there. I like to suggest no less than 140 pounds. Cold press will give you a nice rough texture, which I love. Hot press is smooth. It all depends on what you want. I've made journals from TerraSkin, Stonehenge paper. There's a whole bunch of different things, and it depends on what you want. What I have here is I have 3 different styles, and actually I lied. I have about 40 journals, but I want to show you the actual style. This is one that's drying. This particular one I'm using for my daily art challenge, and this is made of TerraSkin, and this has just got cut out tabs that I'm going to actually embellish at the end, but it's basically, you know, a regular book. I've just cut out tabs, nothing fancy. The page was just long, I just cut it in half. Okay, so you can do anything you want in these. So this is made out of TerraSkin. What I also did is during my regular art classes that I teach, I also use this book for some gelatin monoprinting and stuff like that. So it kind of pre-paints the pages. Okay, that's TerraSkin. This is multimedia paper. And this paper, though, I actually pre-painted before assembling it. Now, this one here, you can do with fold out. And this one, I haven't been doing a lot in it. I did a nice flower on rice paper that I actually collaged in here. But you can do really anything that you want. It'll really hold well. And because it's acrylic, it actually seals it as well. Okay. Then, this is one that I just started getting going. This is made out of Fabriano paper, and these have smaller tabs, and it's actually quite nice. And you can collage and you can do whatever you want. This is a little bit stiffer, okay. A little bit thicker, torn edges, looks amazing. Okay, so this is the style of book here that I'm going to show you how to make, because it's the simplest in the folding and everything. We're actually going to make it a little bit bigger than just this. Okay, I'm going to show, there's going to be 2 sets of videos, one done with the watercolor paper with a large journal, and one done with TerraSkin, which would be individual small journals. How you do your folds is completely up to you. Okay, so I'm going to show this style using TerraSkin in another video, but this particular video I'm going to take these types of folds. Okay, we're going to make a large book, and then what we're going to do is we're going to attach a cover to it. Okay, so again, not a quick and dirty video. Okay, but you don't have to make it as complicated. You make it as complicated as you want. So basically, you're going to have this type of thing, and then we're just going to attach a cover to it. Now, this one here I use for what I call pochods, which are quick studies. And this is watercolor paper that I actually painted in full sheets and then cut them down. And what you get out of that is that you get totally random assemblies of pages. Okay, they're totally different. Okay, they're, you know, and this is that's all I've done so far. Okay, and this particular one I like using for people. And I've got just, I don't know where the other ones are. So I've got 2 here, I've got this one here. So it's nice because you've got all the nice backgrounds. And I should be working on this one a lot more, but again, with this one here, it's got the folds on some of the pages. Okay, so what do you need? Okay, well, we already talked about a full sheet of watercolor paper. My microphone's stuck. And all I did, full-size sheet, okay, so let's pretend this is the full-size sheet of watercolor paper. All I did was take the measurement, and it's going to be different for everybody, measure it across, okay, and basically divide it into 3 pieces, okay, which I ended up getting okay, cut 3 pieces of paper like this. Okay, I pre-folded a whole bunch of the pages already because you really only need to see it done once. And basically what you want to do then is you want to determine what you want for your actual size of your book. Measure, take a ruler and kind of figure out what you want for your measurement. So let's pick 8 inches. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure from here, you're going to measure and you're going to make at least 2 marks. Measure here across 8 inches, make a mark. Here 8 inches, make a mark. Here 8 inches, make a mark. And on this size, you could probably get away with 2. I like 3 because then it makes your folds accurate. Okay. Then when you measure across, you can make a light line with a pencil. And then when you put your ruler down, and you can make a score mark. It helps with the folding. You can use the end of scissors as well. This is a bone folder. It's really cheap, but you can use scissors just to make a light little mark. Then you want to fold it, and when you fold it, again, you can use this part here, the scissors, to score, this part here to burnish. I did this only once and I cut myself, so I ended up getting this. When you do the fold and you burnish. Okay, I've got other videos on my website showing different bookbinding techniques. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with this, with the actual tools and stuff. Okay, I want to keep this as simple as possible so you don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of supplies. All right, so you measure 8 inches across, okay, fold it over, and then burnish, either this way or this way. Then wherever this part here is, okay, you can also fold that over. Or what I like to do too is even where the line is, make a slight mark, because that makes your folding line. Fold that over, burnish, okay? The minute your pages are folded, they're called a folio. Okay, this is a folio. Multiple folios that are nested together, so you have one folio, put another folio inside like this, is now called a signature. All right, for this particular book that we're making, okay, we're going to make one folio be the signature, because what I want to do to help you is to make your journal expandable. Okay, so it's got a lot of room to expand, and what this will allow you to do is to create thicker pieces of art. If your journal is so tight, if you try to do some mixed media in there, including collage, your book is going to end up being fanned like this. But if it's allowed to expand over here, okay, it'll just become thicker. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So first thing you want to do is take your pages and fold them. Okay. Now, if you want to make double folds on here, that's fine. Okay. What you do is just take your piece. Okay, you take your piece, fold it in half. Okay, so you can fold it in half like this. I'm just going to make a light mark. Oopsie. Okay, and I'm just going to burnish this. Burnish, it just gets the fold to be really nice. Again, you can score it if you want first, then burnish it. If you really enjoy bookbinding, then I highly suggest you get, a bone folder and stuff like that, because it'll help. Then from here, you would measure 8 inches and then 8 inches. And that will give you a book that has small folds on either side. Okay, so you're going to do that. Otherwise, you just measure 8 inches, fold, okay, and then fold over again, burnish. You're going to have large tabs. I like the idea of the large tabs. It gives me just another area to paint on. So because of the amount of studies that I do and post shots and stuff like that, my studio last year was so full of canvases that it was very hard to keep track of anything. Okay, where I like doing stuff in journals now because of the room. So if you think about it, if I count this here, okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, actually it's 6 paintable sides, let's put it that way, 6 paintable sides on this. Can you imagine the size of 6 canvas boards, the height that it would be? Okay, and then the canvas boards have to go somewhere for storage, whether you frame them or whatever, and you're not going to frame your studies. So this is equivalent to 6 canvas boards in a way that you can actually have your paintings, your studies, your drawings, whatever, organized where you can get to them. Okay, so that's what I like about this. And also you can take these anywhere, do whatever you want with them, and you don't need to show it to anybody. Okay, if you're actually doing just visual journaling, it's your own private time. I use my art journals 90% of the time for my actual studies. I actually have a journal that I use strictly for color mixing, and I'll get that out in a little bit. All right, so with this then, what I did is I took leftover piece and I cut it, another sheet of watercolor paper, cut it just a little bit bigger than the actual folio, okay, and I glued a piece of nice fabric to it, and I'm going to use this as my cover. So I'm going to actually, at the end, I'm going to fold these over, and I'm going to put a piece of rice paper inside, and that will actually be my cover. If you do a full wraparound, your journal will have a hard time expanding at the spine side. Okay, I want to have it where it'll expand, so the journal will be thick, so it will be able to be widened out on all sides and not just like that, because I hate journals like that. Okay, so that's it. Now for supplies, again, I've done other videos with the bookbinding, but I'm just going to quickly go over what you're going to need. So an awl. You can also use a very, very thin nail. If you don't have any supplies, try to use what you have until you can actually give it a shot. Okay, an awl punches the holes in your signatures. This is actually waxed cording that I get from Lee Valley. I was using linen thread that I would have to wax. I don't like it. You can even use embroidery floss. I've heard of some people using dental floss, wax dental floss. The wax makes it so much easier for actually staying together when you do your binding. A needle. Get a needle that's got the largest hole possible. If you get bookbinding needles, unless you're doing this professionally, they're very expensive. I bought some, don't like them. I ended up going to a tapestry needle. I was able to get, I only bought 3, but 3 of these is equivalent to the price of 1 bookbinding needle. Okay. Oh yeah, and our template. Okay, so for our template, I took a scrap piece of paper again, measured it the width of the folio, which is going to be our signature because we're doing individual folios as signatures. I'm not going to nest them. Okay, and all I did from there is I folded. Okay. Then from the middle, I folded. And from that fold, I folded. What it gets me, and then folded in the middle, and what I got is cubes going down, and they're evenly measured. I only want 4 holes in my book, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Put little circles there with a graphite pen, and then from there, all you do is line up your template where the fold is. Okay, so you can either do it this way, or you can do it this way. Okay, depends on what's more comfortable for you. But basically, in essence, what you're going to do is you're going to punch holes in here. All right. So you line that up, making sure that it's nice and measured, and then you're going to punch a hole. You're going to have to press really hard to make sure the hole goes through, and then you'll end up with, probably can't see, I've got 4 holes. And if you look and it doesn't go all the way through, then you can just take your awl and just poke it a little bit more. All you want is you want your thread to be able to go right through. Don't press too hard or you'll make the hole too big. Okay, now the other journal I was talking about is this one here. This one is, I think it's on the website as well. And this one here is actually a wrap over. Okay, and I actually stitched the cover to here. And this was basically from a creative idea. And this is a prototype. Okay, so I would use this prototype as my idea to actually rebind it. I would bind this with a concept and a drawing, how I wanted the book binding, take it apart, and then redo it after all the mistakes and notes. Didn't bother, so I'm just keeping it the way it is. And I'm just using this basically for all my color mixes, all the stuff that I'm doing. And I just basically just kind of do this. So you can do it with a cover or without a cover, whatever you want. Whatever makes it easier for you. It's your journal. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of clean up this area here, and I'll get this set up to actually do the binding. Okay, one thing I forgot to tell you is when you've got one page, I mean, this is a cheating way and you're probably not going to be totally accurate in your punching, but if you by chance have too much trouble working with one of these, just get one punched. Okay, then what you can do is put one on top of the other and use your actual folio as your guide to punch. Okay, then when you've punched through the 2, take the top one and move it, put another one underneath, and punch. That way you're only punching through the folio twice, and use that one on top, you punch through. It's just a really quick and easy way to you know, if you have trouble working with this. Okay. Now what I have to do here is, because I've got my folds, see I did my one with the 2 here, get the camera to focus, 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 focus. Okay. So this will be my outside. So let's see, I've got, I want one, so I want my first one coming like this, then I need one on the right, okay, one on the left, one on the right, and you're going to have these already all lined up already. You don't have to do it this way, you can do it any way you want. Okay, and one way to kind of double check is you line everything up like this and take a look. That's where your punches are, and they should be relatively even. I'm looking at mine, and one of my folios is too large. So what I'll put that one on the bottom. I'll put that one on the bottom. There we go. All right. The way I like to do it, because I've been doing it for so long, is before I even punch, I line them all up and I clamp them. I put them down on my table, okay, on the edge of the table. Probably can't see here. Put them on the edge of the table. Then I have my ruler or my measure, okay? And what I do is I draw a line from where I want the measure going straight up. I draw a line with my graphite pencil, and now I know where I want my punches to be. Okay, so this is not too bad. All right, and then we're going to start binding now. So the binding that I'm going to use is a very simple binding. You can do it with or without a cover, so that's why I said you can make it as complicated or as simple as you want. You can have as many signatures as you want. Okay, to measure the thread out, I measure the thread roughly one piece, one measurement for each signature. Okay, then I add 2 more. So I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Then I just add 2 more. It's best to have extra. Okay, now when getting started with this, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the top signature and we're going to work our way down. I'm going to do this book on the assumption you're not going to have a cover. Okay, to give you some practice, because if you start binding the cover right now, it might be a little bit more complicated for you. So let's do this first without a cover, and then in another video, then I'll show you how to fasten that on. I mean, this is really, really simple. Okay, so we're always going to start from the top, and as we go, we add underneath. So what we're going to do is that we're going to start in the very first hole. Okay, and with this one here, you're going to have a little tail sticking out here, which we can trim down, or you can cover with a wraparound cover, or you just put a little tassel on it if you want to decorate. It's up to you. I'm going to go into hole number 1. Okay, and be careful when you pull the thread through. Be patient. Don't rush, because your thread may get tangled. Like I said, this is not quick and dirty. The TerraSkin one, I'll show you an easier way to do, like a small 16-page journal. Okay, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to make a little knot. I'm not going to tie it tight. Right about there. Okay. So I went into hole number 1, right through here. Now I'm going to come out hole number 2. And do it slowly, and the minute you find a little bit of tension, stop and check. If you get a knot, especially with waxed thread, it's a bugger to fix. Okay? So you went in hole 1, came out of hole 2, you're going to go into hole 3. This is our starting stitch. Okay, in 1, out 2, in 3, out 4. Where's the hole? And I've got my finger underneath, kind of guiding the thread, so it doesn't. So I'll be able to feel ahead of time if it starts to tangle. Okay. So now we have it. Check it. Add your next signature. This is where it gets a little bit cumbersome because you're having to handle 2 pieces now. Now what you're going to do, you're going to go into the hole directly underneath. Okay, so in 1, out 2, in 3, out 4, you're going to go into 5, which is the one immediately below. Oh, and see, I'm getting a little bit tangled here. There we go. You may find it easier to actually binder clip your signatures together. It's whatever works for you. Okay. You're going to go out the next hole, which is hole number 6. This is common as well. Okay, now this is where things start to change up. And basically this is how you're going to do it from now on, okay? And I'm going to repeat this a couple times. In 1, out 2, in 3, out 4, in 5, out 6. Now what you're going to do is we need to join these together. You're going to go into the stitch now, into the hole directly above. So you're going 1, 2, 3. You're going to over into the third hole. Hopefully I can get this on camera. If you're doing this the first time, you will in your mind say, why don't I just go out and buy an art journal? Because there's nothing like working art in your own hand-bound journal. It's beautiful. Now, if you were doing this as a regular journal, you would make that nice and tight. I want mine to be expandable. I don't want to make it too tight. I want it snug, not tight. Okay? Where's my needle? Okay. Now you're going to go now you're in the back, you're back in the top signature now. Now you're going to go over, okay, into the next hole over. So you're coming out of the first signature, you're coming out of hole number 2. Okay? Make it nice and snug. And now you're going to go into the second signature on the bottom, into the hole directly underneath it. So we're joining all the signatures together now. Whoops, we have a knot. And when you have a knot, you have to stop. And it's very likely that you may even have to pull the thread back out, the needle back out, to get it untangled. Depends. Just don't rush. So what I'm going to do is, so I don't waste your time, I was going to just turn the camera off and fix it up, but it was okay. It'll get easier once the threads get a little bit shorter. Now, one of the videos I did, not my cat, Harrison's cat, Chaos, every time I would pick up ready to bookbind, she was on my desk fighting with me. This is kind of interesting doing book. It's the first time I've done bookbinding without Chaos being here. Okay, so now this is joined, that's joined, that's joined. All right, so you're in this one here now. Now you're going to come out of the next hole. I like having the thread just hang on the floor. If you have a kitty cat though, that's not always possible. Okay, make sure it's nice and snug, not tight, snug. Okay, now remember this little tail that I have here? I'm going to tie these two in a knot. Oops. And we'll just do one more. There. So now you have two signatures that are bound together, and they have a slight gap in there, so they'll be able to expand as you start building art into it. Okay. So now I'm going to add our next signature underneath and repeat the whole process. So we're going to go into the hole directly below. Okay. and I am not a professional bookbinder. This is just what I like to do. Since I started learning basic bookbinding, I haven't bought a hand-bound journal, other than my Canson one, which was my very first one, and I just painted the cover. Okay, so going into the first one, now you're going to go into the next hole. Now, okay, I went through the next one, but I accidentally caught the thread above it. Pull your needle out and do it again. Okay, start that again. Go into the next hole. And pull that thread through. Make sure it's nice and tight. Oh, it's not. It's kind of loosey-goosey. Okay. Now we need to attach this one to the one above it. So you're going to go into the hole directly above. Now you're in the middle signature. I'm trying not to let go of my needle because that's when things start to tangle up. Okay. Now it's attached. Now we're going to go into the next hole. We're still in the middle signature now. And we cut our corners. Now we have to attach the top one to the bottom one. So go into the hole directly below. Oh, this one didn't quite. Where is it? There we go. Okay. And you basically would repeat this for as many signatures as you want. I'm making this book fairly large, so you can see the stitching being repeated. Blah, blah. I could simply say, okay, do this and then go to the next segment, which is it's already done. But I'm going to keep doing this because, you know, if you have trouble grasping the technique, or if you're learning for the first time, the more times you see it being done, the easier it's going to be for you. Now we have to attach the bottom signature to the top signature. Sorry, I was going to sneeze there for a second. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so we came out of this signature here. Okay, now as we did with the other ones, okay, that where we actually went into the hole. Okay, when we come into something like this, you don't need to go into the hole, you just go into the thread. It creates a little loop that's here. See that little loop there? You're going to put your needle right through there. This creates like a little chain. So you don't have to go into the actual hole. Okay, there we go. So I loop through. Okay, so I came and went around. I want to go through now the bottom one. So I went around the top one, came out, and now this loop here, okay, I'm going to go underneath that. And I'll actually have a little picture. I'll have a little picture to show you what I mean. All it does is it just kind of does a little wrap chain. Okay, now we add our next signature. This one now we go into. Where's the hole? I can't see the hole. Okay. always adding from the bottom. When you're punching your holes too, you may want to also mark the top of your paper. This is top, that way your holes are always aligned. Okay, nice and snug. Go into the next hole. Now, can anyone guess what the next stitch is going to be? What's the next stitch going to be? We're going to join. If you're never sure what to do, just take a look at it. Oh, okay, it's loose. You know you just have to join to the one above it. Okay. Just going to open that up a little bit. There we go. All right. That's joined. Now you go into the next hole. So you're coming out of the hole beside it now. And basically your journal, you'll know you did it right. Your first page will always have a string going across, which is your starting string. There's other ways where you can actually put a string all the way across. That's just decorative. You can, you know, do that if you want, or if you're putting a book cover on it. If you go a wraparound book cover, it's not going to matter. You won't see the stitching. The way I'm doing this is to basically give you the opportunity to do one without a cover, and then we're going to put a cover on after. Okay, tighten it up a little bit. Oops, I just dropped my thread. Dropped my needle, not my thread. Okay. And the more you add, the more difficult it's going to be to handle, so you may want to get your binder clips out. I'm going to go into the next one. Okay. Check the stitch. Always check the stitch. Nice and tight. Okay, now we're going to go up around the previous loop. The ends are the only ones where you don't actually have to go into the hole. Okay, so when you go through, okay, so see how it's kind of gone around? So then I can just basically go through here. Once I put a little bit tighter, okay, just hopefully that you'll be able to see this part. I'm actually going to go through that loop. And I guess you can call it like a locking chain. It's an actual chain that it creates, and it kind of binds stuff together. It's like you're knotting the edges so they don't slip. Okay. Pretty. And I know that this one doesn't have a middle one, which is, I know, the next signature I have to go into. Okay. So then I'm going to go into the next one on the bottom. I'm at the point now where I can't see the holes. Did I even punch this one? Oh yeah, I did, but not very well. So I'm just going to make a hole just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go in, out. There we go. Now I can see it. Now, if you don't have wax thread, you can just use a candle. like I said, I'm trying to do these so you don't have to go out and buy a whole whack load of supplies. Because if you don't have to buy supplies, you'll actually try it. And if you like it, then go out and buy supplies. Okay, go with the next hole. So this, oops, see, I got caught in the previous signature by mistake. Gotta stop, take it out, do it again. This is one of the most economical ways to make an art journal. The fastest one, though, is going to be the next one I'm going to show you, which just uses like what's like a figure eight, it's like a running stitch, and that's a really, really easy one to do. Your journal doesn't get big like this, though. It's a smaller journal, just about 16 pages around. Okay. Now you're going to, what do we have to do now? Oh, well, this one's open, so we have to join it to the previous one. And I'm just filming this by myself, and I would like to actually zoom in and out, but I would end up spending more time adjusting the camera to make sure that I'm not out of camera view. So I really, really hope that you guys can see what I'm doing, which is why I'm not just saying, okay, and then we'll come back and everything will be done. I'm going to go through every single one so you can see it being done. And if it's tedious, then you know what? You can fast forward. I am not one for skipping detail, because I was a beginner once as well. That's one thing that I couldn't stand, was when, something's being done and, it's skipped ahead to the next section. Okay. I'm going to go through the next hole now. I like seeing things being done. And again, there are some times where, back when I was learning and, I was saying, oh, okay, I already know how to do this. And that's what the fast forward's for. Okay, nice and tight. Okay, what do I have to do? Well, I have to attach this one to this one. What I want to check first, though, is I just want to make this a little bit snug. It's just a little loose. There we go. Three of these, so 3 signatures for this paper, cost me $1.95. So think, if I was just doing 3 signatures, a 18 page, oh, depending on how you do the fold. So we'll say around 16 pages, under $6. I'm going to go into the next one now. A hand-crafted journal that you make from scratch for under $6. This one here will be a little bit more than $6, but you know what? One good way to justify the time, because time is money as well. Savings on storage. How much room you would save not having to work on. And canvas boards are a lot more money than these. Okay, so now I'm going to loop around. Let me just pull this in front. There we go. Loop, loop, ouch. Loop, loop. Okay. I'm going to go through. When I do this on my own, I usually let it be tight. This is just to show you. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to understand. But if you have any questions, you can visit artplace.ca and feel free to ask a question there on my website. Okay. And then you could just keep building onto this as much as you want. Okay, so I've got my folds here. I think I got one backwards. So I've got this here. Okay, this opens up. One on the right opens up. Oh no, it's actually all right. There we go. See how many pages we have here? Oh, okay. And then we're going to add the next one underneath. So as you keep adding them, okay, this gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And right now it looks, you know, it's relatively flat, okay, with no art. But as you start building your art, if your spine is so tight, it's going to be like this. With it being flexible on the end, you're going to have a little bit more room to grow. Okay, and this one here, I didn't quite burnish this enough. See how it's kind of open like that? So I'm going to have to burnish this again. Okay, let's go down into the next one. I had to take a little bit of a break. There we go. Oops. Get that out of the way. Oh, for goodness sake, I spent all that time getting my string back in order and look what happens. It's because of that darn tail. There we go. Okay, oops, I think I was out of camera view. Nice and snug. Okay, go into the next hole. Like I said, if you understand this stitching now, just skip ahead. I'm just going to show it and keep showing it. It's best to show too much than not enough. Tighten that a little bit. Okay, gonna go into the next hole here. Okay, so we have to join this one to the one above it. So we're gonna go into the hole directly above. Flip that open. I'm just gonna move my light a little bit. It's a little bit glary. A little bit glary. Okay. So there it is. Okay, so now we're going to go into that hole. Make sure I don't get caught in the other signature. Yeah, I get caught in my mouse. Don't have a cat, but I have a mouse. Okay, nice and tight. And we go into the next one. Now that I move my light, now I can't see. Let me just move that over just a little bit more. There's the hole. I'm just going to adjust that light. Hold on a sec. There we go. That's better. That light was just glaring in my face. I couldn't take it anymore. All right. Okay, that's looking good. Go into the next hole. Let's back that out a little bit. There we go. Okay. Next signature. And we're just going to go into the next hole. Of course, I can't see the hole. I think it's time that I go back to my eye doctor, eh? Oops, I have a knot here. I have a knot. Okay. Next hole. The ones on the ends as well, you don't have to create them in that daisy knot. You don't have to do that. Because I'm using the wax thread, so it's really nice and strong. If you're using embroidery thread, which kind of makes it slippery, you may want to do that. We've also got the covers going on this, so that's going to make it strong as well. Okay, so now we're going to go into the stitch above. Going to join this one to this one. Okay, go into the next one. They get a little bit easier as you start getting down to the end of the thread. Join now the top one to the bottom one. But if you have pussycats, you may want to lock yourself in a room while doing this. Like I said, chaos. She could have been in another room in the house, but the minute she could hear that I was doing bookbinding, she was just right there. She was right there. Okay, and just going to go around the previous stitch. This is where you have to be careful because you're going around a stitch. There we go. Okay. Oh, see what I did here? See this one here? That's a little tight. That's a little tight. So I'm just going to loosen it up a little bit. I'm just going to loosen that up just a little bit. That's way too tight. I'm going to stick my needle back in there and grab it. There we go. Let me just loosen that up. There. See, I just made it a little bit looser. Okay. Next signature. Go into the next hole. So you can see how it's the same strokes. Same stroke. Same stitch. In here. And in here. Okay. Make it nice and tight. If the stitch comes through this way, because I went in, down, and out, pull like this. Don't pull like this or you tear your paper. Pull like this to make it a little more snug. Not tight, snug. You don't want loose thread. That looks good. Next hole. It usually takes me about 5 or 6 signatures before I can get into a groove. I get into a rhythm. And by that time I only have a couple of signatures left. Stitch the top to the bottom. Let me just get this out of the way. My setup here is ideal for somebody who doesn't have a lot of room in their studio. As if you're doing this on a kitchen table or something, you can do it. No amount of room will be enough for me. I have one room dedicated for my online classes, and I have my main floor studio, where I do all my commercial art. I'm just going to wrap it around now. All my commercial art where people can actually come in and, commissions and see me work and stuff like that. This one I try to keep clean. Like all my furniture is beautiful black, very modern looking and that, but I've got, a gungy wooden easel. For a table, black is not the best, especially when you're trying to go on camera. It seems to absorb all the light, and I should have known that, but it looks really good. But my table here where I'm doing my video recordings, it's just one table, and it's an average size table, average size for like even the size of a kitchen table type of thing. So I figured be better doing it on here because it's closer to what people have for a kitchen table, or if you're going to do this on your countertop. I missed a stitch. I missed binding these two. See, I was talking. No big deal. I can fix that after. All I'll do is I'll come in, I'll do another stitch just to go around. If you're doing a wraparound, it's no big deal, but I'm going to still fasten those two together. See, I wasn't paying attention. But am I panicking? No. If I was creating a hand-bound book for a customer, I wouldn't panic, but I would just make sure, do my repair, but make sure it looked okay. I try to discourage people from commissioning me to make a hand-bound book from them, a hand-bound book for me to make it for them. I prefer people can do it themselves. There's nothing more satisfying than creating art in something that you made from scratch, other than hand making the paper. Even that, you can do that too. Maybe this summer I'll do some tutorials on creating a hand-bound art journal from homemade paper. I have video on how to make your own art journal using your weekly newspaper flyers. So using from homemade papers can't be that hard. Okay, and we're going to do our little wraparound. There we go. And our knot. Our optional knot, which isn't really necessary because I'm using my wax thread. Only 2 more signatures to go. Only 2 more to go. This is one of the easiest, with a little bit of practice, this is one of the easiest and most versatile stitches, because you can do this stitch where you want the stitching exposed. You can do it if you want to do a wraparound. Sometimes, like a lot of the stitching I do is a Coptic stitch, but it's a stitch that takes a little bit longer to do. It's very similar to what I'm doing here, except it's the way that I loop the previous stitch here. Kind of, Coptic stitch, you actually go around. You know how we've been doing it around the edge? You go around here. Okay, you go in and out the same stitch and all that stuff. So, like you would go in, wrap your thread around this stitch, and then come back out the same hole. It's a beautiful stitch. It just takes a really long time. So I prefer if you guys just get started with this first to get yourselves comfortable. And then once you're comfortable with that, I'm going to get some feedback from others, and then maybe I'll do a video tutorial on the Coptic stitch. Okay, let's just tighten that up a little bit. Tighten that up a little bit, just don't make it so tight, because remember, we want this to be expandable. We don't want this to be so tight. Now this one to this one. You'll be able to do collage in this if you want. Use modeling paste if you want. You don't have to. But I love a journal, an art journal, where I can create my art, loop it around, and I don't have to be limited. I've got so many art journals on the go, and try to keep yourself to only a couple if possible. Like I've got one for my post jobs, one for my field studies and all that stuff. Just because it's more for what works for me. You may want to just work with one art journal until it's full and then use that up, and that's fine. If you get watercolor paper on sale, then pick up some sheets and practice. Now, it's up to you, because the very first stitch we have this string running across. Typically when you finish this, you just keep going the same as here, but if you want to decorate, if you're having your actual stitching showing, we just repeat a stitch. So I'm going to go back up, so you can just continue on. Okay, when you get to the end, you loop it and then you tie it in a couple of knots. But if you want to have that string running across, so we're going to go back, so we're going to continue on, go up into the previous, the hole above, and the signature above. Okay. Go back out. This is the same as before. Oops, where are we? Here we are. This is the same as before. Go down into the signature below. Okay, this is the same. Nothing's changed so far. Okay, now the difference is, now we would typically come out of this hole, sewing station, and come out of here. What I want to do is we're just going to go down here. Okay, so instead of now going across and out, we're going backwards. And going over here. Okay, so you understand what I did? Minus the getting tied up part. Okay, so I came out of the second last signature, came over here, went underneath. So instead of going out into this one and going here, I would come out and tie it off. Okay, I came out into this one, I backtracked, came out of this hole, put the string on the outside, over here, and then back down. I'm going to come around this way. Okay, now it's as if we didn't even do any backtracking here. That way you have a string on the top and a string on the bottom. I mean, you could even repeat the same thing all the way across if you wanted to have string showing. It depends. If you have a wraparound, I wouldn't worry about it because your stitching is going to be covered. If you can master this stitch, okay, with your patience and practice with the needle and thread, the Coptic stitch will be easier for you to do. And, oh, I already knotted it, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to pretend I don't have to fix this. So I'm going to do just a couple of knots. The other thing you could do, depending on how much work is going to go in your book, how much is going to be handled, you could also put dabs of glue on the ends. If it's going to be a wraparound, you don't need to, wraparound cover, but we're just going to be attaching the cover straight to here, so you may want that. And I'm just going to do one more. Okay. The final stitch, I'm just going to hold this and just tighten it. So I don't want it to tighten through here. I just want to snug it up. There we go. Okay. Now, to get down to here, because I don't want to have a knot showing anywhere to fix these two, what you can do is get yourself into one of the holes, and you could actually run your needle all the way across. You'll have a piece of thread going all the way across. Then you just come out of here and then go into here and then knot it up. That may be what I end up doing. So let's see how that's going to work. The only difference is that each one of these you have 1, 2, 3, nothing, 1, 2, 3, nothing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you'll get to that piece where I want to join. When I want to join the two, you'll have another string running all the way across. Okay, that'll be the only difference. So it's up to you, how you'd want to fix that. But again, if you're doing a wraparound cover, I wouldn't worry about it. But I'd like to show you how this is done. So I'm just going to bring my thread into, I'm going to find the signature. It's this one here. So I'm just going to kind of wrap around. No point in going into any of the holes. Okay. You know what I wonder? I could just basically fudge it where I've got 2 pieces of string here and I can actually put another piece of string right on top so it'll look more uniform. There we go. I'm going to go back into the hole. So I'm going into the hole of the signature that's on the top. You don't need to do this if you didn't miss a stitch. I'm doing this because I missed a connecting stitch. I wasn't paying attention. And I'm showing this. I could have, been sneaky and not show it to you, but you know what? I would prefer showing you my mistake because then you'll know what to do to fix it. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I won't be able to get right in the middle, so I'll just do it right here. So I'm going to make another string going across. I've got the thread. So all I'm doing is I'm backtracking the stitch. I'm just repeating the stitch the way I did on the bottom. And you can do this as many times as you want. The other thing is that you can actually drop your stitches. You can go into another hole to make it going across. You can do whatever you want. I'm just doing repair to fix a stitch that I missed. That's all. Okay, now when you open it, it'll be doubled here, and that'll look okay. Come out of here. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to just loop. Just loop around. There we go. Now, so I went in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about I also put another running stitch across just to make it even. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going down to so I'm just going to have it, you know, there's one here, 5 down, there's going to be a blank, another one, then another one. It's just to make it look a little bit more even. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just me. Also, don't want to waste the thread. But if I was having this stitch going, where are we? If I was having this stitch, this book with a wraparound cover, I wouldn't be doing this because you won't see it. It's just taking pride in your work. There we go. So now I've got, you probably can't see. Well, it's just going here, thread here, here, skip one here, then here. All right, so now I'm going to tie this all off. It'll be one really strong journal. Before I cut the thread though, I'm going to flip through every page to make sure I didn't miss anything. If you know ahead of time that you want to put a cover on, you could attach the cover on first. But because this is a basic video on how to make your own journal, I want to keep it simple. Okay. So flip, flip. Now I've got to cut that tail off. I kind of hid that there. Fold over. Okay. Fold over. Where there's a double thread. Okay. It's looking so good. This is looking good. Okay. Oh, did this one backwards. 1, 1. That's okay. Alrighty. So now I'm gonna go up. I like looping them as I go, like up one higher. It just makes it stronger. Okay. There we go. So take this one, trim that down. There we are. So now this is ready. And it's expandable. You see how it's wiggly? So it's expandable. So instead of your book being like this, as you start filling it up, it'll be able to widen out like that. Okay, so I'm going to finish this video off now and follow in the next video where I attach a cover to this. And then I'm also going to do another video using TerraSkin to create individual journals that are small. Okay, this TerraSkin. TerraSkin is paper made from stone, and you can get information. I'll put the information at the end of the video for these ones here with a Canadian distributor and an American distributor. But I've got the folios folded into the signatures, and then you can actually make one journal like this just by insetting everything. So you can do that. You can make them, you don't need to use these as individual. Okay, you would nest these because it's thin enough. I did these ones as individual to make them expandable. Okay, so there's about another 2 more videos coming. All right, so in closing, give this a try. Visit artplace.ca for other free tutorials that I have. I've got other stuff on there for journal making and painting the backgrounds in the journals. If you want to do painting, I have a whack load of videos for that, all free for viewing. So in closing, stay inspired, and I hope you enjoy your journal.